Hey guys, welcome to another video. This video is going to be the updated version of the Battlefield 2042 settings guide that I put out all the way back in April. That's over 6 months ago now, and since then, a lot of stuff has changed. There's been new settings added, and just overall, some stuff has been switched around a little bit. So this is the updated version of that video. This will be covering both PC-specific and console-specific settings, so you guys don't have to worry about that. I'll try to cover as many things as I possibly can. But before we actually cover the settings in the game, we have to make sure the settings outside of the game are correct as well. If you've joined the video, please hit the subscribe button and like the video, as it really does help the channel out. If we hit 33,000 subs before this, thank you guys so much for hitting that. You guys are absolutely nuts, and I really do appreciate the continued support. So first, this will apply to people with NVIDIA graphics cards. I'm sure there's something similar for people with AMD graphics cards, but I don't have one. You're going to want to make sure you open your NVIDIA control panel, and we will go through the things listed here. First things first, you want to go in the upper left-hand corner to Manage 3D Settings. You want to actually copy each and every single thing that you see here. I'll just scroll slowly, and you can just pause the video at any time to copy these settings. I'll explain some things as we go along. So low latency mode, I have it set to off. You actually don't want to have low latency mode turned on unless your GPU usage is above 98%. So if you have a GPU bound scenario, turn low latency mode on. If you don't, just turn it off. For power management mode, you're just going to want to have perform maximum performance. And of course, you're going to want to have your refresh rate to highest available. Make sure it's not, locking it to 60 or anything like that. And of course, you're going to want to make sure VSync is off unless you're running some crazy G-Sync plus VSync setup. Now, you're going to want to come over here to your display in the upper left-hand corner to change resolution. Make sure your monitors are running at their highest refresh rates. Come over here, click your monitor, refresh rate 240 in my case, and 144 for my second monitor. Just make sure that is happening. You don't want to be that guy that buys the brightest and best monitor and never uses it at its highest refresh rate. I've had some friends do that. In the same tab, there are some other settings you can do. Come down here, and you actually want to make sure your color output dynamic range is at full for both of your monitors. And as far as other things, if you scroll down here to video, there are some other settings you can go through here. So if you want to come down here and go on advanced dynamic range, put that to full for both your monitors. Now, X out of that, we're going to actually go to your file explorer here. Go to Documents, Battlefield 2042, Settings, and this is where you find your prof save and prof save profiles. Now, Battlefield 2042 in the past has been notorious for resetting your settings. Now, if you want to prevent this, you can copy-paste these files onto your desktop, and if your game resets your settings, like it did for me 3 times already, this will help save you some headaches, because if your game resets your settings, you can just simply come to your desktop, copy these files, and then paste them back in. That'll help reset some of the settings that your game screwed up. Now, going in here, this is PC specific, obviously. You can open the profsave_profile with a editor such as Notepad or Notepad++. And you're going to want to find GST_input.mouse sensitivity. Now, this is important because PC players can set their sensitivity exactly how they want it, more precisely than you would be able to in-game. Now, obviously, setting it in-game is just fine, so this is more for the people that are, super anal about this stuff, and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to be using a website called mousesensitivity.com. Come up here, I will put it in the description. How this works is you essentially just come in here and you select a game. So we're setting a sensitivity for Battlefield 2042. We're going to type Battlefield 2042 in. Now it'll give you this, big scary thing. Don't worry, it's not as scary as it actually looks. So first you want to come over here and type your DPI in. In my case, it'll be 1600. In your case, it might be 1600. It might be something else. Now, come up here to this sort of calculator setting thing. Go to Units, make sure that is on centimeters, and convert from distance. Now, this is going to ask you for a 360 distance. In order to measure your 360 distance, all you have to do is get a tape measure or, some form of measuring device, and just go in game and do a full 360 degree turn and just see how far you moved your mouse. In my case, I have to move my mouse 33.5 centimeters to do a 360 in game. And after you do that, it'll give you the exact thing you can put in this ProfSave profile. In my case, it is GST input.mouse sensitivity 0.00244336 blah blah blah. So, I just come in here, copy paste that number, and then open the ProfSave profile, put it exactly where that command is there, then file save, boom. You're done. You set your sensitivity more accurately than you could ever possibly want. And you'll, hey, I'm still trash with it, Ha ha ha, that's funny. So I'll have that in the description down below if you guys want to do that. And yeah, that's basically it for the settings outside of the game. Now let's jump to the settings inside of the game. And if you're wondering if Battlefield 2042 has a config file, it actually does not. So sorry about that, guys. Let's jump to the game settings though. All right, so let's start going over these settings in game. As I said in the beginning of the video, there are new settings that they added since I last made this video, so we'll be going over those a little more in depth. As always, if you're enjoying the video and you find this helpful at all, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long, long way, and I really do appreciate each and every single one of you that do that, take the time to do that. Really, really awesome. Thank you guys again for almost hitting 33,000 subs. That's absolutely insane, and I never thought I would be able to say that. So coming in here in the options menu, we're going to be first going over the general section. A few things you want to actually turn on or off here. So for share usage data, this is normally something you would turn off, but in this game, if you want to see your third-party stats, like on Battlefield Tracker, you're going to have to turn this on. So if you care about that, have this setting on. For the new update, which introduced Portal persistent servers, if you want to make a Portal server and have it be persistent, as in it doesn't go away if players leave it, you're going to want to actually come into the general section here and turn persistent servers on. I don't believe in the updates they actually told you had to turn this on, but you actually do. So if you're a Portal server owner, come in here, make sure that's on, and also make sure allow followers is on if you're a Portal server owner as well. Now, coming over here to the display settings, if you're a super sweaty gamer and you want to make sure you have the, most advantage, all that stuff, play your games in full screen. If you don't care about that, personal preference. If you like alt-tabbing faster, you can play in borderless or whatever you want. Make sure your refresh rate is highest available. And something weird in Battlefield 2042, obviously field of view is personal preference, but you can actually set your field of view in this game to the decimal point, to the 10th to be exact. So if you decide 89 FOV is just noob garbage, right? I want 89.1 FOV. You can actually do that. ADS field of view is another personal preference setting. If you want more zoom in your red dots, turn ADS field of view off. Coming over here to the graphics settings, I find this game to be quite dark in some areas, at least for my monitor. You're going to have to mess with this. I like running this game a little higher on the brightness. Default is 50. I like running about 65. This obviously depends on your monitor and stuff like that. You can mess with that to see if you like higher brightness as well. Motion blur, turn this off in all games ever made, pretty much. Chromatic aberration, turn that off, and vignette, turn that off. You're going to want to make sure that vignette is turned off for sure because it actually dims the edges of your screen a little bit. We don't like that at all. We want to see everything in front of us in an FPS game. Coming over here to the graphics presets, the harsh reality is, guys, if you're going to want this game to feel anything like good or smooth or any of those things, you're going to have to play on low settings. So yeah, low all the way down. I even tried ultra for mesh quality because I know in previous Battlefield games, ultra mesh was a setting that was actually preferred, but in this game, it doesn't seem to make any difference. So run low settings all the way down here. Coming into the advanced graphics settings, make sure you have dynamic resolution scale turned off unless you're specifically using this for something. DLSS and future frame rendering are very computer dependent settings. On my specific computer, which if you want to see my whole setup, it is listed in the description below in full. I have a 3090, 5950X, custom tune, 3733, CL14 memory, all that stuff. For my specific computer, these settings don't do anything. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to do a little bit of testing yourself, which kind of sucks. But one setting you're gonna wanna have on definitely is NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency. If you have an NVIDIA 3000 series graphics card, make sure this is enabled plus boost. If you have a 2000 series graphics card, make sure this is boost. I heard it might give you problems if you try to use enabled plus boost on, say, like a 2080. So just be careful with that a little bit. And you're going to want to make sure that you have vertical sync turned off, because no one likes vertical sync. Coming over here to HUD General, there's some things that you're going to want to make sure you have off here. For HUD motion, you're going to want to make sure that is off, just to make sure that, nothing is moving around, making it jarring, making you miss information, stuff like that. Camera shake amount, make sure you turn that all the way down to 0. And coming down here, this is actually turned off by default, I think. The show killed made by. You're going to make sure the world log is on all, just so you have information as to who is killing who. And in HUD scaling is a bit weird. So the reason I have world info scale set to 125 is the minimap size in this game is actually tied to this setting. As you can see, world info scale changes the scaling of the minimap and team info. If you want your minimap bigger, this is the setting you want to change. So I have this set to maximum size so I can see my minimap a little better. Other than that, the horizontal HUD padding, the farther you push this to the right, a 100 or like 0. I set this on 100 to make sure my information is more squished to the center of the screen, so I don't have to look as far into the bottom corners of my monitor. This is obviously huge personal preference. You can mess around with this all you want. I set it to 100 personally, though. Crosshair. There are some settings here that you're definitely not going to want to miss. So obviously, crosshair opacity, personal preference. Something that you're going to want to make sure you have off is crosshair projection. Terrible setting. Make sure that's off. Crosshair thickness, I prefer the default. I find I lose the thin crosshair sometimes. Crosshair color, again, personal preference. And something that I actually prefer, just helps with visibility a little bit. Soldier damage thickness, vehicle damage thickness. Make sure it's set to thin. While you're shooting something, I find the hit markers can be a little too large sometimes, a little too thick. That's what she said. Turn that to thin, please. Minimap, come in here just to set your minimap parameters. I like a nice 70-meter view distance on foot. You can mess around with this as much as you want. Now, HUD icons. This is where they kind of went a little hog wild on us. Okay, this is some of the new stuff. This system that you're looking at right now was in Battlefield 5. We just couldn't touch it, okay? I have not touched a single thing in this menu, and for a good reason. Honestly, boys, if I'm being honest, I mess with this a lot, and I honestly don't know what it does. I have had no problems with this on default. I would recommend not touching it. If you want to be like some gigantic UI wizard, you can come in here and mess with this. Other than that, I think default is completely fine. It's meant to mess with your opacity zones and stuff like that. I think they did a good job with the default tuning. Now, something you're going to absolutely want to come in here and tune are the objective icons and friendly icons and stuff like that. So this is all about getting useless information off of your screen. So for the objective icons, I like making them smaller by default and having them have less opacity by default. And when I zoom, I want that completely off of my screen. So that is what I like to do for the objectives. Same with friendlies, but to a little less so. I make my friendly icons smaller by default. I make my friendly icons a little less visible by default, and furthermore, a little less visible in zoom. And for friendly revive icons, I make them as small as possible. I make their opacity, 50% less, and I actually get rid of them completely while aiming, just to eliminate screen clutter. Squad icons, I do the same thing. You guys can pause the video and copy my settings at any time. It's essentially all the same idea. Anything that is I consider to be screen clutter or useless information while I'm fighting somebody, I try to get rid of. Now, something that you absolutely want to make sure you don't get rid of is enemy icons. You want to make sure this is, as bright as you can possibly make it, as visible as possible. For neutral icons, same idea. Just get rid of it when I'm aiming at someone. Ping marker icons, same idea. Moving on to sound. I actually quite like the 3D headphone mix in this game. I think it's great, The audio in Battlefield 2042, if I had to pick one good thing about the game, it would be the footstep audio. The footstep audio in this game is fantastic with a 3D headphone setting, and I would recommend that. Oh my god, wait a minute. Turn the in-game radio music off because God knows what they're going to play on that. Coming over here to the mouse and keyboard settings, obviously mouse raw input, you're going to want to have that on. That is absolutely essential to all gameplay. The mouse is still broken. Thank you, Dice. But again, turn mouse raw input off or it's even more broken. Now, coming in here to on the on-foot settings, a lot of this stuff is some of the same stuff we just went over, but it's a little more concise. You can find it a little easier. Always use traversal sprint. This is a personal preference setting. I tend to like it on because I gotta go fast. What this does is it basically makes you tactical sprint all the time, but keep in mind you will take a sprint to fire penalty with this setting on. I just prefer it though because the maps are so big. Now coming over here to the key bindings. Key bindings are, again, personal preference, but there's one specific thing that I would highly recommend doing, both on controller, if you have the amount of buttons for it, and on PC. So you're going to want to come in here, and you're going to want to make sure that your modify weapon attachments is on your mouse button. And I'll explain this by showing you a video clip. So in this game, in the plus menu, there are basically 4 trees of attachments. And in the center, there are numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, each number corresponding to a leg of that attachment tree. Now, I'll just demonstrate it here. You can essentially switch through your attachments much, much faster if you move the plus menu button to your side mouse button. I just find it to be extremely useful, and it's my #1 tip for people that are coming in and trying to get a little more efficient with their gameplay in Battlefield 2042. Getting good with the plus menu in this way is a fantastic way to just be quicker on the fly and just earn you more kills. Now, coming back over here into the game settings, the accessibility, this is where you'll find your colorblind settings and all that stuff. I actually just leave it default, but if you want to mess with your colors, this is where you do it. So if you want like crazy colors, if you want your enemies to be yellow or something like that, this is where you do it at. And if you want menu narration, if you like that sort of thing, this is where it's at. And as far as anything else, that's pretty much it. So a ton of settings. I apologize if I missed anything. There's a ton of stuff to go over. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like if this video helped you at all. And of course, subscribe to the channel. I will be putting out updated settings videos as necessary if they add new settings and stuff like that. And I will see you guys in the next one.